All right. Welcome, everybody, to my little music corner of the world. This is John Clauser speaking to you. And this is the North and South rock and metal connection. I'm going to add that rock in there now because I think that's going to be plausible for this episode tonight. So, in the house tonight, from the Great White North, we got Roger Serreris with his tongue sticking out like Gene Simmons. we got the South connection. We got Ben Carson. We got JD Akins. And welcoming into the group tonight, Ben's brother, Jason. Welcome, brother.
How's it going? Glad y'all.
Oh, man. It's great to have you guys on tonight. So tonight, we're going to talk about the Bicentennial Year of 1976. Roger, I know you could care less about the Bicentennial Year because you're Canadian, so you could care less about this probably. But anyway.
I don't even know what that means.
Don't worry, Roger. Don't
worry about it, man. It's all good. It's all good. But you know what? 1976 was also a really great year for music. And one thing I want to mention, it was bookended by two amazing live albums. And I don't know if anybody's going to pick them, but I'll talk about that maybe in a little bit later. So we'll see if anybody picks those albums. But let's get started talking about 1976. We're going to give our 5 favorite albums from that year. We're going to throw in an honorable mention in there as well. So, Jason, you are the new guy to the group tonight. Kick us off with number 5 for you.
All right. Well, my number 5 pick was 2112 by Rush.
Okay.
Not really for any other reason than just the side one, the epic 2112 song itself. I mean, it's without having a Pink Floyd album released in 76, that's as close as I could get to Pink Floyd.
There you go.
But yes, that is my number 5 pick is 2112. Is great album. Side 2 has some good tracks on it as well, but yeah, for me it was all about side 1, the epic 2112 with Neil's amazing lyrics that he wrote for it, plus his drumming is just, I mean, it's Neil drumming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you expect?
Exactly.
So, I mean,
great pick.
That's my number 1. That's my number 5 pick.
Okay. All right, let's go to your brother, Ben. Let's hear your 76. Number 5.
Number 5 pick is from one of my favorite bands ever, Give Me Back My Bullets by Leonard Skinner. Excellent album, a little different tone than their other albums because they're missing their flourishy guitar player. Ed King had left and they hadn't gotten Steve Gaines in at this time. Epic opening track, the song Give Me Back My Bullets. Great closing tracks, Cry for the Bad Man, one of their unsung best songs they've done. You never hear it that much. And a beautiful song, All I Can Do Is Write About It, talking about how the cities are taking over the small towns and countries. All in all, different tone than what Skinner normally delivers in an album, but a great album nonetheless. So
solid.
That's my number 5 pick.
Solid choice. Solid choice. All right, JD, go ahead and give us your number 5.
I went with Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy.
Great choice.
Yeah, I heard it. I listened to it several times because it's got that the replay factor is just amazing to me. I got in the notes. It's really good hard rocking album. Got the twin guitar sound, which I feel like they kind of not really started, but they really made that like that big influence. A lot of people, a lot of bands that came around really dug into the twin guitar sound. And I love how the album to me has like a really good consistent sound all the way through it. Even, like 8-9 tracks. There's like 2 slower tracks on it, but they still have the same feel musically as the rest of the songs do.
Right.
Yeah, it's just great album. Few tracks that stood out to me, minus the two big singles, obviously being Jailbreak and The Boys Are Back in Town. I love the song Romeo and The Lonely Girl. I like that one. It's got the slower tempo, but like I said, it still has the same oomph to it. I like Running Back. It's a good one. Has this, a little slower, but still has the same feel. And Cowboy Song. I like that one too. Kind of starts out a little country ballady, but then it really, it hits you. So overall, great album. Like I said, I've listened to about 4 or 5 times in the last couple of days just because it's catchy and it's really good. So yeah, Jailbreak.
Was that a Phil album?
Mm-hmm.
Phil was on it. Oh.
Yeah. Gotta love good Thin Lizzy stuff. That's a classic album too. Good choice. Roger, what you got for number 5?
The same thing, Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak. Kind of can't really make a top 5 without that, in my opinion. And Phil doesn't really get the credit he deserves for being a artist, I think. Very unique voice too.
Yeah, what a front man. Absolute great front man. And a great lyrist, great storyteller. Yeah. You can't. Good choice. I mean, good choice. Definitely. I'm glad to see somebody pick that one. So, okay, my number 5. I didn't know if you have anything else to say on Jailbreak there, Roger. I don't want to cut you off.
He said pretty much everything I wanted to.
There you go.
I feel
All
like
right.
that's going to happen a lot with you too.
Probably.
Maybe so. All right, my number 5. I'm gonna go with Little Foghat, Night Shift.
Oh,
Night Shift.
What a great album. I had this as a kid. Man, I just absolutely love this album. Driving Wheel, great track. Don't Run Me Down has that nice halftime feel, and it kicks into just this boom and speedy blues shuffle. Burning the Midnight Oil, a great little epic there. Night Shift, great track. Absolutely love that riff and rhythms. Of course, you got Hot Shot Low, Take Me to the River, classic Al Green song, and I'll Be Standing By, just a great ending. But I grew up with a lot of Foghat in my house between this and Fool for the City, but this was 1976. I still listen to this a lot today. I find sometimes the song Night Shift is on repeat a lot because I just love that groove. But, Lonesome Dave, God rest his soul, Roger Earl is the drummer. He still has it going. Gosh, I mean, Rod Price is gone, and Craig Stevens is gone from us too. So, Rod Earl's pretty much keeping it going. So, God bless him for keeping Foghat alive and kicking. But that's my number 5. Jason, number 4.
Number 4, I went with Rising by Rainbow.
And I'll provide a few. I will provide some show and tells.
There you go.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I had never listened to this album before doing research for this show. I realized real quick how much I've been missing out. Was a phenomenal record right off the bat with Tarot Woman. I mean, that song just it grabs you by the head and won't let go, and then right from that, right into Run with the Wolf, just beautiful songs. And then, my other one that I really dug off of it was, of course, Stargazer. And I mean, that was a surprise. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I have found myself listening to it quite a bit since doing this, and I've enjoyed it very much. I mean, of course, with Dio's voice, you cannot go wrong listening to Ronnie James Dio, and then Richie Blackmore playing it up on the guitar, man, is amazing. And it was a life-changing experience, to say the least.
There you go.
And
I've heard that a lot about that album.
Yes, it was amazing.
I said the same thing in a group text here this last week or so.
Solid choice. All right, Ben, you're number
All
4.
right, so my number 4, I have the visual for this one here is,
I had a
Go
feeling
on.
somebody was going to say it.
yeah, this album here, I mean, Kiss is one of my all-time favorites. And this album here just is amazing. I love every song on it. I mean, there's a reason this is considered their best album, you know, and it came out during their big year, you know, the Spirit of 76 world tour that just dominated, biggest tour of the year, and had so many hits on it. Beth, Do You Love Me, Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, God of Thunder, Flaming Youth, just full of top songs, and a great effort by a very great band who was at the height of their top of their game at the time.
Yep.
And what else can be said about the Destroyer album that hasn't already been said? So that's my number 4 pick.
I knew somebody would pick that one. Maybe more on that later.
Maybe more later.
JD.
Hang on.
Oop.
Sorry.
He's a fireman.
Uh-oh. Duty calls.
Well, no, it's not me. It's the. Okay,
there
we're
we-
good.
All right,
All
JD,
right.
you're up.
Apologies.
Go ahead, JD.
I went with Sad Wings of Destiny by Judas Priest is my number 4.
Good pick.
I love Priest, and they're probably top 5 favorite band for me. I listened to this album a little bit before we did this project, but really diving into it for it, and I didn't think I would like it as much. Like he said, like Jason said about Rainbow. I felt like that. I was like, I don't know, because to me, I was always the later period Priest. But listening to this one, just the riff driven songs and the sounds, just I love that. And I think it's probably the only album where you actually can hear the range of Halford's vocals. Like he'll shriek, but then he'll be really calm with it, and then he'll sing, and he'll just like it's blew my mind of just the range that Halford has.
That's why I've always been a fan of early Priest compared to later Priest.
Yeah, like, and I like the album itself has a wide variety of styles and moods and textures all in it. It's just it doesn't seem like what would typically be heavy metal, but it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think doing a little bit of research into this, I've read where people said that Priest really consolidated their sound and their image with this album. I see that. I get that now, going back, listening to that one. It's just great. All the tracks to me are, like I said, it's like the same thing with Jailbreak. It's got the replay value. It's I just love it. I never thought I would, but it surprised me with how good it was.
Yep.
Sad Wings by Judas Priest.
And it's such a drastic difference from Rock-a-Rolla. If
Right.
you ever get a chance to listen to Rock-a-Rolla, boy, I love Rock-a-Rolla personally. It's so different from most of everything else Priest would do. But
That is true.
it's like everybody's got to start somewhere. And that album you could definitely tell it was a start. But boy, from that to Sad Wings of Destiny, wow. Great choice, JD. Great choice. Roger.
Oh, my number 4 is Rush 2112. It always amazes me how those 3 can just come up with that type of music with just like most bands, it takes like 6 members. Anyone tries to cover Neil's stuff, kind of need another drummer.
Yeah, it's gonna take at least 2 to cover Neil.
Like if anyone says Neil isn't the best drummer of all time, they're wrong, in my opinion. But that album's probably one of my favorite by them. That first track, to me, it's like a journey, kind of like a Pink Floyd CD, just like Ben's brother said. So, but what else? What else is there to say about that? Really,
Yep.
There are three legends that kind of can never be copied.
Nope, not anywhere close.
And I'm not just saying that because they're Canadian.
We would say the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great choice. All right. My number 4. So I'm going to get kind of more proggy here. So this band came out with 2 albums in 1976. One in the beginning of the year, one toward the later part of the year. About a year or so earlier, they had a little bit of a seismic shift in the band as their well-known lead singer would eventually depart after putting together this epic double album concept story. And they would go out on this tour doing this album in its entirety and trying to have a slideshow in the background and doing all these different characters. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But the singer would eventually leave and he would go on to front his own solo career. And meanwhile, the band was trying to figure out, well, who are we going to get to sing? Well, you guys got this drummer who kind of sounds a little like Peter Gabriel, and I'm talking about Genesis, the trick of the tail. I remember my sister had this album when I was a kid, and I just this is just another album for me that I can just listen to beginning to end. You get Dance on a Volcano, you get this very up tempo, just full speed ahead, and Phil Collins showing off some really good drumming chops. You get Ripples, which is this beautiful guitar laden track. You get Squonk with this maybe a little Zeppelin-y kind of rocker kind of feel. Then you get Mad Mad Moon, this beautiful Tony Banks composition with this all kinds of twists and turns. Robbery, Assault, and Battery, another group written song, another charged and great story. Entangled, another beautiful guitar piece. You have the title track with this lilting little rhythm that it has. And then you have this barn burning epic ending, Los Endos, great instrumental. It was a great set closer. If you ever saw them live, I never did, but I watched some footage of them. And that was always just a wonderful jam to listen to. To me, some of Steve Hackett's best playing. I still liked Genesis quite a lot at this time period. The other album, Wind and Wuthering, which I do like. I don't listen to it as much as I do Trick of the Tail. That would be Steve Hackett's last album with the band. And then from there, they go on to what we know now as the Genesis. Everybody knows, the more popular, more condensed songs. No, not so much the proggy, although they do have some proggy aspects in their music. They focus more on just being a hit band, so some love it, some don't. I'm more of a Peter Gabriel era up to Wind and Wuthering personally, but Trick of a Tail for me, that one's just heavily in my DNA. So
your build up to that sounded identical to Pink Floyd, but that didn't happen until 1981. So I was a little confused for a second.
Well, I knew exactly where you're going. As she just kept going, I was like, oh, yep, he's going Genesis.
Yeah,
I knew that.
It sounded like Floyd, but I mean, they did put out one last album together in '83, the final cut. But,
yep. So, which
yeah,
from what I hear, that's still a Roger Waters solo album, just with Gilmore kind of adding a little bit in there too. But
Yeah.
essentially,
so I've heard. So
yeah, essentially, I mean, the last Floyd record, so to speak, would probably be The Wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, Jason, number 3, what you got?
Queen, A Day at the Races.
Classic.
Can't go wrong with Queen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got one of the greatest opening tracks, in my opinion, of all time with Tie Your Mother Down. I mean, that opening guitar riff, Tie Your Mother Down, what better way to open a record? I mean, there's my personal favorite Queen song of all time is on this record, Somebody to Love. I mean, you got that old school Southern gospel feel with that song. And then, you know, the other diamond on this one was Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy. Great track. It's a great album from beginning to end. It's very, very easy to listen to, and it has a very high replay quality that, you know, I mean, that pretty much goes with any Queen record. But
oh yeah,
that was that's going to be my pick number 3, and it's one of their best. I mean,
great
it's
pick.
definitely it's not a night at the opera, but it doesn't have to be. It is its own thing, which is one of the things I really admired about Queen is their ability to make each record sound completely and totally different, but still sound like Queen.
Yep, solid choice, solid and great pick with the Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy. So that track that one just doesn't get talked enough about. So that's a great deep cut there. That's good pick. So, all right, Ben, what you got for number 3?
All right, number 3. So a little backstory here. There's 5 Scottish-born Australians who put together this 50s blues style rock and roll band because they're influenced by Chuck Berry, and they released an album in 1976 called High Voltage. I'm talking about AC/DC.
Yep.
The album that introduced them to the entire world. They had released some stuff in Australia, but this was their first worldwide release, and amazing debut album. You know, the lead single off of it, TNT, they still play at every single concert they've ever done. It's still a, you know, fan participation song, whatnot. A Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll, that's, you know, a staple in AC/DC's catalog. It's got The Jack, another song they play nearly every show. Can I Sit Next to You, Girl, a great little sleazy Bon Scott song. Awesome song. Just overall, great album. I love AC/DC, one of my top 5. I say that about every band we talk about. One of my top 5, AC/DC, that got me into playing guitar. You know, their songs are only 3 or 4 chords, but to learn how to play them right takes a lifetime to do.
Absolutely.
Great album. So High Voltage by AC/DC.
Great pick. I always loved that album. And, you know, it's interesting because Brian Johnson said he would never do It's a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll out of respect to Bond, because he always felt that was Bond's moment to shine with the bagpipes and everything. And he just felt like, no, that's Bond's. I can't do that one, you know. And I respect Brian for that. You know, the High Voltage, the title track, great song. I heard a really funny story about TNT. So you have the opening, okay? Now, you're a guitar player. Have you ever tried to play and sing that intro?
No, I've never tried to do it while I was playing it.
So I heard this story from Paul Gilbert. He was, when he would teach at GIT or MIT or whatever it was, he said he would make a bet with his students that if they could sing and play the intro to TNT, he'd give them $50. Otherwise, they'd have to give him $50 if they couldn't do it. So you think about it, the Oys come on a different beat from the riff, and it's completely off. I've tried to do it. I can't do it.
Tough,
you know,
very tough,
very, very tough. You're not going to pull it off. So, you know, but
makes you wonder how Malcolm did it.
Well, I think it might have. Well, obviously they did the vocals differently, but yeah, I don't know. But
That's why they have the crowd do it now.
That's
So
why they
don't
have the crowd do it. Exactly.
Smart,
But
smart.
to put it in a little bit of perspective, Angus was like a teenager when this album came out.
Yeah, he was.
Shows
Yeah.
how good he was at an early age, and he still said Malcolm was a better player than him.
Yeah.
You know,
But Malcolm had that rhythm down, man. No rhythm player like Malcolm.
no,
Good
that
stuff.
never will be.
Nope. JD, what you got for number 3?
All right. I went with Boston. Yeah. I mean, to me, you talk 76, you got to bring up Boston. Like the fact that that this album was recorded in Tom's basement, like, and with like instruments that he invented himself, that's to me that's amazing. It's an album for the ages. Like it's love it to death. Good hard rock songs, but it's got the choruses that really, that just get you and just real catchy. And I also love the fact that despite only having 2 singles, you can hear majority of the entire album on classic rock radio.
Every day.
Like,
Yep.
that like I remember being a kid and just listening to all these, not knowing who this band was, but when I was going back listening to this album I'd heard it before, but doing it for the research, I was like, I remember hearing this like all the time as a kid and just just rocking out to it as a kid and just like, wow, just it's let's see what else to have in my notes for it. It's a great album altogether. Like I said, it's like with my basically my top 5 is it's got that replay factor. The songs are just it never lets up, and what's the name? Brad Dell. Yeah.
Dell.
Oh my God, that guy can just
God
sing.
rest his soul.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me to think that it's like when Boston dropped this out, it blew up. And just to think that it took them 2 years to do a follow-up. And then by that point, everybody just gave up on them. And then it took until 86 to do a third one. And definitely by that point, nobody cared about Boston anymore.
Well, the thing with Boston is he didn't even want to put Don't Look Back out because he didn't feel like the songs were strong enough and ready to, and he didn't feel like it was ready to do it, but he got the pressure from the record company. And then the reason it took him another 8 years to put out Third Stage was between record company contracts and just lawsuits. And there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that, there was a lot of legal action with the other guys in the band. There's all kinds of problems going on there.
And the fact that, and he's also like kind of what I've heard, like a perfectionist as
Very
well.
much a perfectionist.
So he kind of wants everything to sound, tight. And if it doesn't, he's like, restart it all over again.
Yep. And, but, I'm going to just say more on this a little bit later. Roger, what you got for number 3?
I have Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny too. I think this was Rob's best vocal performance. I prefer the heavier Judas Priest, but like you said, this is completely different compared to the rest of their stuff. It's just a lot of Judas Priest kind of is a lot of different stuff. Like some of it's heavier, and then that Nostradamus album that everyone loves.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah. But honestly, John said pretty much everything I wanted to say too. So he has great taste. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I'll agree. Because my number 3 was going to be Boston. So, this is my original copy that my brother brought home on a trip to, he had gone to Chicago for a work thing that he was doing. He was doing some training for when he worked for IBM, and he had gotten this album while he was out there. And this is the same copy from 45 years ago. So, I mean,
Better lock it up because those things are hard to come by.
oh yeah. But you know, gosh, every single song is so strong. Don't Look Back, while yes, is a good album, it's just not quite as strong as that first album. And quite frankly, they've never done anything nowhere near as good as that first album. It just, the songs were just never there after that. And it just, but that first album, my God, that can't do no wrong. I mean, that opening intro, More Than a Feeling, just a beautiful song. Brad Delp's voice from the heavens.
I've never heard a singer with range like that.
Oh gosh, just an amazing. I mean, you know, then you get into Peace of Mind. Great track. Foreplay Long Time with that wonderful, really crazy intro. You know, the organ intro and great track. Rock and Roll Band, Smoking, Hitch a Ride, Something About You, Let Me Take You Home Tonight. I mean, enough
Now,
said.
can I be excused for 2 seconds? And don't take this out either. I'll add some comedy to it. I think I have food poisoning.
Bro,
Oh god.
that's not good. Okay, Jason, let's now we're getting into nitty gritty here. So what you got for number 2?
All right, my number 2 could easily be a number 1 record. It could probably be the greatest record of 1976, period, across the board. I went with Hotel California. There's not a single bad song on the record. You listen, I mean, from the opening guitar riff of the song Hotel California to the final piano chord on the song The Last Resort, it's all just immaculate. Some of Don and Glenn's greatest songwriting was done on that record. We've got the classic Eagles harmonies with the vocals. And we got some pretty good rockers. We got Life in the Fast Lane, Victim of Love. Those are 2 pretty good rockers. You've got the absolute classic Eagle piano ballads with Wasted Time and Last Resort. We've got Joe coming in, first record. He's throwing out Pretty Maids All in a Row. New Kid in Town is another banger. It's to me, it's the perfect record. And it was really, really close to being my number 1, but I found one that I liked just a little bit better.
Oh boy.
If I'll just say this real quick, if the Hotel California record would have had the song Desperado on it, it would have been the biggest record of all time.
Oh yeah.
Hands down.
Yep. And and think about it. They had released the best of 71 to 75 early in that year, which was also a very well known or sold album as well.
And actually, if I remember correctly from doing my research, I believe the Greatest Hits Volume 1 from 71 to 75, I believe, is still their biggest selling record of all
Probably
time.
right. Probably right. Good stuff. Great album. Great. That was another one that, gosh, I remember my brother getting that one when I was a kid. So I heard a lot of Eagles too growing up. So
it's just it's so easy and it's so listenable. I mean, you can listen to it over and over. I mean, and I've listened to this record thousands of times, just on repeat. It's just so good. I mean, like I said, there's not a bad song on it.
A funny story I have about Hotel California is one time I got to see Steve Vai, and I got to do the VIP thing with him. So I did the Q&A with him. And so I had one main question, but he popped the news to us that he was going to be performing at the Kennedy Arts Center awards thing, and that was the year the Eagles were given the award, and he was supposed to be playing on Hotel California. And so I jokingly asked him, so you remember, I don't know if you guys ever saw the video where he had this heart-shaped guitar. It had a 12 string on one side and had
Yes. Yeah.
and I asked him, so are you going to use that guitar to play the Hotel California solo at the end with the, the harmony thing? But he thought, yeah, I'm not sure I could get that one through at the White House.
That's cool.
Nice.
So, all right, Ben, what you got for number?
Okay. My number 2 has already been mentioned several times. It is Rainbow Rising by Rainbow. You can hold it up for me if you don't mind. There it is.
Beautiful.
It is an amazing album. It affected my life, and it made it for the better when I listened to it a few weeks ago in its entirety for the first time. It's incredible. Dio's vocals are insane. It's Richie Blackmore. Roger said it in the group chat. He's a genius. Can't say enough good things about that record. Insanely good.
Yep. Well, and if we had Butch Jones from Sea of Tranquility on here, he'd be saying 3 words with this one too. Cozy effing Powell.
Yeah. Sure.
JD, what's next? What you got?
All right. Well, going with Ben here. Going with Rainbow Rising, or Rising by Rainbow, however you want to put it. Everything that that's been said. I mean, it's you can't argue with it. It's
Nope.
You got Dio. Like you can't go wrong when you've got Ronnie as your singer, and no matter what it is, he's doing his thing, singing more about dragons and fantasy stuff that's been part of Dio's, this part of Dio lore.
If you love the gothic fantasy based metal of the early 80s, such as Iron Maiden and all that, this is the foundation of that.
Yeah,
It is. It really is.
metal.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they also, I did read this too, they recorded it in less than a month. So everything that we got for that album was basically they did it in 1 or 2 takes, and that was all we got. That's how come there's never been no demos that's ever been released out of it, because of everything we got was all done into 1 or 2
Studio
takes.
time was expensive back then.
Yeah, just gotta pump it out. Jay said, starting off with a Terror Woman.
Yes.
Oh, can't go wrong. Just
To me, that was the track of the album. Right there.
The
That was
listing,
the
the
best one.
listing of it, the way each song just it goes right into the other. It's
Oh, and what an epic side too with Stargazer and Light in the Black. Light in the Black.
Definitely I think those 2 right there. You have those 2 on the end of your album. You've got an album of the year right there. And and one more little thing that I got to say is, I honestly think that this album probably has some of the best playing I've ever heard from Richie Blackmore. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
I would agree with that.
I'm going to say it. It's some of the best that I've heard personally.
I mean, I liked some of his stuff in Deep Purple.
I did, yeah. I did
This
too.
this was a whole other side of Richie that we hadn't really seen before in Deep Purple.
Yep.
That's true.
Very true. Good
I
stuff,
think-
guys.
I think Dio made a good choice giving up Elf's journey to pursue joining Rainbow. Nothing against Elf. That was a good album, but
Yeah, First Avenue was a pretty good track. I dug that one. It's been a while since I listened to that one, but yeah.
Hoochie Coochie Ladies is just a great song.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
Yep. Yeah, I need to go revisit that one someday. So
Yeah.
All right, Roger. What you got for number 2?
First, I can honestly say I have no clue what you 2 are talking about, and I love Dio.
We were it was all Rainbow Rising. So the band before Rainbow, he was in a band called Elf. Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I never listened to it.
Yeah.
I did was talking about.
Yeah, it was pretty much a garage rock, straight up bar rock kind of thing. It really wasn't anything wild or crazy. But
Thank you,
Yeah.
Metal Dad.
Thank you, Metal Dad.
Anyway, my number 2, it's been mentioned a bunch of other times, but it's Kiss Destroyer. Let me say one thing though. Me and my wife rarely agree on music, but whenever that album comes on, she's the one that turns up Detroit Rock City. She never tells me to turn down God of Thunder, which is probably my favorite intro to any song, period. Just love that bass line. Gene Simmons is something now. He's a genius too. It's like anyone that's a genius is impossible to work with, which is kind of like why Richie Blackmore kind of left Deep Purple, from as far as I know. Maybe John can back me up on that. Is that why he left? Because he was difficult and got bored?
No, he's trying to calm the dog down. She got excited.
No, I'm talking to other
why he
people.
left Deep Purple. I think
Yeah.
I think some of it was some personality issues. But I don't know. I've heard people say "Come Taste the Band" with Tommy Bolin and that one other album they did. I actually heard people like those albums. It's just a shame Tommy Bolin got cut from us too quickly. But yeah, I mean, I've always heard Richie was hard to deal with.
Very
Another
hard to
point.
do.
That too.
It's like Ace isn't in there anymore. I think he's probably, I would say, one of the most underrated guitar players. I
Mhm.
don't think he ever gets the credit he deserves for his writing.
Yep.
Blackmore has
uh,
so many bands under his belt because he is very difficult to work with.
Yeah.
But somebody was telling me that the album they did, that Deep Purple did after he left, it was when you listen to the album, you could tell the band almost was rejoicing that they didn't have to work with Richie Blackmore. That was the kind of the impression that this guy had when he listened to it. It was like, wow, freedom from this tyrant or whatever. But great pick. Destroyer is just a great album. You guys will probably be surprised though, may or may not show up, but we'll talk about that.
Yes.
All right, my number 2, we're gonna go with a little band, kind of a little bit of a jazz rock, maybe a little bit of reggae, a little bit of maybe some prog thrown in there, all kinds of different styles. This album in particular was a real cynical sounding, just a grimy, dark album with these really strong song titles and song lyrics. And only one guy could do that kind of cynical stuff. And I'm talking about Donald Fagan and Steely Dan, The Royal Scam. This is another album that has just been ingrained in my DNA. You got Kid Charlemagne starting off the album with Larry Carlton's just beautiful guitar licks. You got the Caves of Altamura with a bit of a reggae feel to it. You got Don't Take Me Alive, which is another Larry Carlton just masterpiece. Sign Stranger also has a little bit of reggae feel. You got the Fez, which is just this beautiful up-tempo rocker. Green Earrings, Haitian Divorce, Everything You Did. The title track, Royal Scam, has this absolutely snarling riff that I just grabs me every time I listen to it. But there's just so many dark themes and so many great, just unbelievable moments on this album that this one just has been with me ever since I first heard it, thanks to my sister and my brother, because they were both fans. And I was sad that when I saw Steely Dan in concert, they only did one song from it, and it was Kid Charlemagne. I would have loved to have heard them do the entire album, but
I'm gonna download that album because you did not steer me wrong at all on Warlock. So
but
I'm still rocking hard to Warlock like crazy.
that's a great album too. But if a lot of people before this, you had a lot of maybe you know, Donald Fagan was always a little more on the cynical side with some of his lyrics, but they were the sounds were always a lot more happier. You know, you're like Ricky, don't lose that number, or you know, my old school, reeling in the years, do it again, dirty work. You know, such great tracks. But then this was just so much darker and cynical, and really cynical sounding. I just I ate it up. So all right, let's do a few honorable mentions before we do our number ones. So Jason, what do you got for an honorable mention?
My honorable mention is going to have to be High Voltage by AC/DC.
Okay.
I tried to find a way to get it into my top 5. It just didn't make the cut, and you know, I felt bad about it because it really is a great album. Okay. For all the reasons that Ben said. It's a great album. You know, plus, I mean, we've got probably one of the very few times in history, maybe the only time in history, that a rock and roll / hard rock song features a bagpipe solo. Can't beat that.
Nope. Ben, what you got for an honorable mention?
All right. So when I first got my turntable a couple years ago and set up my stereo system in my man cave, one of the first albums that I came across at the secondhand store was Left Overture by Kansas.
Great album.
I love the song Carry On Wayward Son. Everybody knows that one. It's on the radio all the time. But listening to the whole thing, just the guitar playing is just off the charts. It's a great, solid album from start to finish. And I love everything about it. Cool artwork, just, you know.
Kansas had some really good album
covers. They really did. Yes. That was another band that was very much around my house as a kid. You know, yes. Either the even earlier stuff like Song for America and Mask. Those albums were very. I love Song for America especially, and I love Mask too. But man, Left Overture and Point of No Return. Oh, yeah, classics. All right, JD, what you got for an honorable mention?
Mine is, I'm gonna go with Rocks by Aerosmith.
Yes, great album.
Yeah, I heard this one a while back, and I really like it. I'm a big fan of the 70s Aerosmith. Not really.
I am too.
I mean, growing up, I heard a lot of the 80s because that was just the, you know, what was playing, the current hits and everything. But looking into it now, it's like, no, just give me 70s Aerosmith any day. The rest of it, I'll listen to it. But, you know, but if I had the choice, now I'm sticking to the 70s. And this one right here is, this is the one for me.
Apparently, they just had a giant show at Fenway a night or two ago.
50th anniversary.
Yeah.
All right, Roger, you got an honorable mention? Before we get to our number ones. Okay.
Got a question first. Wasn't High Voltage technically a compilation album?
Technically, no. High Voltage originally, yes. The Atlantic version and the American version that came out was like their main introduction. High Voltage did come out in Australia because you have that's the album with it looks like a dog peeing on an electric fence. That's what the cover looks like. Now the original cover, you know, the original album version of it, I believe there's a different track listing on it, but it's not so much a compilation. If I could. I'm trying to look up on Wikipedia here, and I want to try to see if I can find that I could tell you the differences. But I don't think it's considered a compilation. I think it's just more the international debut, because originally or the original High Voltage actually came out in 75, and let's see.
The one that we got, the international version of High Voltage, was like a collaboration. Was some of the tracks from High Voltage and some from TNT that was thrown together for this one. So they took, I guess, like the better tracks,
right?
Let's see. They consider the better tracks, and just threw it out there with a different album cover.
Okay, so the Australian version of High Voltage starts off with "Baby Please Don't Go," She's Got Balls, Little Lover, a song called Stick Around. Side 2 is a song called Soul Stripper, You Ain't Got a Hold on Me, Love Song, and Show Business. So really the only songs, there's like maybe one, maybe two. She's Got Balls, I think, is the only song that made it onto the international version of it.
Lover.
Little Lover. Yes. Yeah, Little Lover. But other than that, everything else didn't make it. So yes, I guess technically you could say it was a compilation of that, and then TNT, because TNT here has It's a Long Way to the Top, Rock and Roll Singer, Jack, The Live Wire, TNT. Side 2 starts off with Rocker. Then I Sit Next to You, High Voltage, and School Days by a Chuck Berry song. So I guess technically it could be a compilation, but it's pretty much listed as an international debut.
Yeah. No, nobody in the States knew about AC/DC till this High Voltage came out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they also kind of had the same issue with the same album that came out the same year too, with Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. That was released in Australia in '76 with this really like
they didn't release it. They didn't release it in the States until about '81, because Back in Black took off so much.
Yeah. Thanks to Mr. Moore and Popoff for me knowing about that because of this.
There you go.
So, I actually wanted a little learning moment there, because that has been the one thing that not bothered me. Like, just I've never understood AC/DC's albums really.
Now, who made who is a compilation?
That's why I thought to ask.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But my honorable mention, I would first like to say this guy's a complete idiot when he speaks, but Ted Nugent.
It's a free for all.
Uncle Ted.
He can write a good riff, really good riff.
Just needs to keep his mouth shut sometimes.
Exactly,
when he speaks.
And that's why I turn him off on the radio. My wife was saying in the background, "You always turn him off." I'm like, yeah, because it reminds me of him just stating his opinion.
Let's face it, Scream Dream was really his last best album that he put out. As far as I'm concerned, everything else after Scream Dream is very mediocre at best. So
we saw him in concert in 2001 on the Great White Buffalo tour.
Yeah.
And it was good all over the place.
I saw him in '86 with Aerosmith. Actually, it was kind of a co-headlining thing, and Uncle Ted was great. I loved him. I thought he sounded great. Aerosmith, not quite so much. They were touring Done with Mirrors. I didn't think they sounded all that good that day. And a lot of my classmates kind of felt the same way. But yeah. All right. So great pick though. I Free for All is a good album. But so my honorable mention is actually going to be the Bee Gees. No, actually it's not. Although this is actually really a good album. But
I like
me last week.
this actually is a good album. I my mom still has the vinyl of this, but this one came out in '76 and it has You Should Be Dancing. So this was like pre Saturday Night Fever, but
there you go.
But I mean, I'm maybe this is still going to be picked, but I mean, Led Zeppelin Presence. This was just Jimmy Page's guitar. Yes, there you go. This is just Jimmy Page's guitar here. Guitar extravaganza,
it was great album. Achilles' Last Stand was
love Achilles' Last Stand. And
Robert Plant recorded it all in a wheelchair.
Yep, he did. All right,
that's amazing.
With that, let's get our number ones. So Jason, what's your number one? Or did I just say it?
No, you did not. You did not. I went with the album that I have listened to more in my life than any other record. And I felt fortunate when I was doing the research for this show. I've been trying to find a number one pick. I was going to go with Give Me Back My Bullets, Then I found this little nugget was released in 76 as well in September. Leonard Skinner classic lineup, live record, One More from the Road.
Love that album.
So good.
That's what a live album should be.
Yep.
I mean, you get the introduction and then straight into working for MCA. I mean, you've got every song on it is a banger. You're basically and the band has become full circle again with 3 guitar players because Steve is with them now, and you're listening to a band at the height of its power.
Yes.
And they owned that stage. I mean, this is the band that went to England and blew the Stones off the stage. I mean, the crowd could care less about the Stones.
Yep.
I mean, this is that band. And they were, I mean, when people think, oh, Skinner was just a cheap Southern band, listen to this record. There's a reason why they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a reason why drummers like, Lars Ulrich worships at the ground of Skinner. I mean, you see him air drumming to Skinner music at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. I mean,
Yep.
Everyone should listen to this record.
That's right.
Solid pick. Great album. Great album.
Awesome
I mean,
album.
plus the 11.5-minute version of Freebird. Can't go wrong with that.
With I think it's like a 6-minute ending.
It's about 6.5 to 7-minute guitar solo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just talking about the Freebird ending.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
That goes
Yeah.
on for like 6 minutes or something. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Return of the King. It ends 3 different times.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, I love that album. I haven't listened to that in a long time. I really need to pick that up again. So great pick, Jason. Great picks all around. Ben, what you got for number 1?
I think it's pretty obvious. Number 1 pick would have to be Arrival by ABBA because
Yes.
So, no, I'm totally kidding on that one. It does have Dancing Queen on it, though.
Hey,
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Dad would agree with you on that.
But no, we've talked about it, 4 or 5 times already, but rarely does an album become its own greatest hits album, but rarely ever does a debut album become a greatest hits album. And that has got to be right there. It is Boston.
Yeah.
Everything about that album is perfect. Tom's guitar playing is on another level. The production value of it is high, even by today's production standards.
Yep.
It sounds better and more polished than anything released. And side by side, it would Destroyer or High Voltage, and tell me what you think for real. I mean, it's insane. It's so good.
Mhm.
That's got to be my number 1 pick is Boston.
Cool. All right. JD, what you got?
All right. Well, everybody knows me pretty well at this point, so everybody knows. 2112 by Rush.
No doubt about it.
What can I say? Any year Rush drops now, it's probably going to be a number 1.
Yep.
Yeah, everything that was said. The sidelong epic masterpiece, beautiful story inspired by the writing of Ayn Rand.
I have that book, by the way.
Neil's lyrics are what do you expect? It's Neil Peart. Lyrics are great. His drumming, phenomenal as always. Getty, just
It was in rare form on that.
shrieking like halfway through the song when they do the discovery part of it. He I found this guitar and he's presenting it, the music to the council, and the way his vocals just shoot up when he's just listen to my music, and then all of a sudden then it goes to yes we know, and just the up in pitch, and it's just whoa, just blows my mind every time I hear it. And I love side one. I think side two doesn't, it's got the whole moving pictures thing where side two doesn't get looked at as much. And I think side two, granted, yes, it's not as epic as the first side, but side two still strong. It shows, I think, the band, it shows that yeah, we can write these beautiful, like long masterpiece of epics, but we can you know, play some shorter little tracks too that are really good. You got, you know, Passage to Bangkok, which, funny enough, everybody that, you know, it's about smoking. It's all about smoking. You know,
No, Neil wouldn't write a song about that, would he?
come on now, it's the 70s. What do you expect? Let's see, another track that I think is really good is Tears, written by Getty.
Yes.
I think it's probably the most underrated, because like that one's, it shows that Getty, that yes, he can shriek and he can scream, but it proves that he can actually sing a song, you know, this kind of like a romantic ballad, and it's beautiful. It's like I said, it's I see, and then there's Lessons, which that was written by Alex. That one was, you know, good song too. And like I said, it's, you know, really good composition from Alex. What else is on there on side two? Twilight Zone, which everybody knows based off the old TV show. And then it ends with Something from Nothing, which it like, I like the lyrics to it, where, you know, where it's like, you know, you can't have something from nothing. You know, you can't have free, you know, you can't have freedom for free. And I think if you look at the tones, it's just going to show that the band's like, because before they dropped this album, Mercury was going to drop them. They were like, guys, your last album was a flop, sold no copies. You know, guys, you need to put out a hit. And the band was like, no, we're going to do this our way. If this is it, then this is it. Like, if this is the last thing we put out, then we're putting 100% into this. And it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it launched everything that came after it. If it was not for 2112, there would be no, you know, we wouldn't be talking, we wouldn't be sitting there talking today about the, you know, especially me. I can go on about Rush on and on forever, because, you know, second favorite band ever.
That's right.
So, but yeah,
I'm bored by looking at it.
I just had to, because like I said, it's Rush. It's like three guys that are masters at their art, at their craft, know what they do. And it's just every day I wake up and I'm just sad to know the fact that Neil is no longer with us.
Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. Couldn't have said it any better. Roger.
Well,
Number one.
you guys know what's coming next. It's Rainbow Rising. Now, a little bit of background on this from me, actually. There was a Dio tribute album in 2014. And a bunch of thrash metal and just metal bands did a bunch of songs, but Metallica did a Ronnie Rising medley. And that's how I discovered this, because I listened to this, or their cover, and I was like, what the heck is this? I have to listen to the original. And then when I listened to the original, I'm like, wow, where has this been all my life?
Yep.
I think it's the best work that Richie and Dio did, even above what they did later. What else was there really to say that hasn't been said?
Very, very classic album. I'm actually looking on my iTunes here real quick, because I have that Dio tribute album. I'm just trying to think of where it is in this menagerie of mess I have. Let me see. Let's see.
Like Roger said, yeah, that was how I heard. That's how I was introduced to it, was through that, like 12 10, 12 minutes or whatever. And it was just, and I was like, I was like, because I was familiar with majority of the songs that everybody else did, because all that was all mainly Dio and Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to that last one, I was like, what is this? I was like, I never heard this before. So like I said, I you know, that, yeah. So yeah, that's exactly how I was introduced to it as well. Roger was
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The Ronnie Rising features Light in the Black, Terror Woman, Stargazer. I think that's all that's on that. But yeah, what a yeah. I'm just looking at this track list again for this. Gosh, you got Neon Night. You know, Anthrax doing Neon Night. You got the Mob Rules being done by Adrenaline Mob. You got Corey Taylor and a bunch of guys doing Rainbow in the Dark. You got Motorhead doing with Stiff Byford of Saxon doing Starstruck. You got Man on Silver Mountain being sung by Rob Halford. Oof, man, I need to listen to that. I need to listen to that one again.
Hailstorm did Straight Through the Heart too. That sounded really good on that.
I think that's the best tribute album they've ever done, in my opinion. But
I would probably agree with that. It's been a long time since I've listened to it, but yeah, I think I would agree with that. Great choices, great stuff with everything that everybody's talked about. Obviously not a surprise that the Rainbow Rising got a lot of love. So at the beginning, I alluded to the fact that 1976 was bookended by some amazing live albums. I don't have a physical copy of the one that started 1976 off, and that was the monumental Frampton Comes Alive.
Yes.
Which, I mean, good Lord, you could still hear some of those tracks on classic rock radio.
I've got it on vinyl.
I do too.
Yep.
I think my mom used to have
great album. I mean, you know, you listen to that the Do You Feel Like We Do, and you know, Lines on My Face, and Jumping, you know, his version of Jumpin' Jack Flash, and there were so many other great tracks on that. But
Show Me the Way.
Yep, Show Me the Way. Great album, just amazing recording. And then at the end of the year, you had Wings Over America, big 3-album set here. You know, so this came at the end of the year. This was like a big tour for McCartney because he had not toured in the States in 10 years. You know, so this was a big coming home for McCartney. And he mixes a lot of Beatles tracks, and of course a lot of the Wings tracks and solo tracks that he would do. But just a mammoth album there. So, but what do I got for number one? Well, let me to paraphrase Sydney Taylor from Sea of Tranquility. She would say that there's not many albums that she would go Chris Allo over. Okay. Now, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, Chris Allo is a bit of a collector, and that's putting it mildly. I think he is known to have at least 8 or 9 copies in different forms of Black Sabbath's Never Say Die, and he can't stand that album. But he still gets it. But I mean, that's just how he is. He is a big time collector, and this album would be my Chris Allo. And this was the debut album by this particular band. They were not always known to tour. They would eventually start touring though. A lot of studio musicians. One that would go on to form a pretty good power pop band in the late 70s into the early 80s. The guy whose name that the band takes from was a very well-known engineer, and he was the engineer behind Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I'm talking about the Alan Parsons Project, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, songs based off of Edgar Allan Poe's stories and poems. This is another album that my sister had when I was growing up, and I adore this album. This is a 40th anniversary edition. So this has like, and I've done a video on this, so I won't go into too much, but this has the 76 version. There's an 87 remix. I think there's a Blu-ray version of it. You know, it's got all kinds of bonus tracks. It's got all kinds of goodies in this thing. I mean, it's just, I have this. And then I have a standalone of the 87 remix. And then there was even an alternate cover. So I kind of went a little nuts with this one. And I have a few versions of it on CD as well. I just absolutely adore the album. It instilled in me the love for Edgar Allan Poe that I have. It starts off with an instrumental called "A Dream Within a Dream," which is just beautiful, which leads into "The Raven," which was it was a little bit groundbreaking because Alan Parsons uses something called a vocoder, which was like a voice through a synthesizer keyboard kind of thing. Goes into, and which is a great track as well. Goes into a song they do on the tells the paraphrases the Telltale Heart story, and you have Arthur Brown from the Crazy World of Arthur Brown singing lead on this thing. And my God, you couldn't have picked a better person to sing this song. Oh my goodness. Just amazing vocal. Cask of Alta Mulatto with I believe Eric Wolfson, the main co-writer from Alan Parsons' project, as co-lead sings. Project of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, the system of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, great rocker. You had this epic long instrumental starting side 2 off of Fall of the House of Usher, which goes from some orchestral stuff, and then it goes into these moody instrumental pieces, and it finishes with a beautiful song called "To One in Paradise." Absolutely adore this album. I love it from start to finish.
This was their debut.
That was their debut album. Came out in May of 1976. That was his first album that he did as the Alan Parsons project. So, and I mean, it just gives a little history behind Edgar Allan Poe. It's just these really moody pictures. It's just beautifully laid out book. And with the album, it's just definitely one of my all-time favorites. Yes, you'll notice I'm wearing a Kiss shirt, but I didn't mention Destroyer or Rock and Roll Over. There's a reason. I skipped too many songs on those albums, believe it or not. I've never actually have been a big fan of Great Expectations or Sweet Pain. So those are actually, and so the criteria I had here was basically, if I'm not skipping something, it's in the list.
Yeah.
And there's not a single song on any of these albums that I would skip. I would just continue to play over and over and over again. And even Rock and Roll Over, there's a couple tracks on there I kind of skip over. You know, I could care less for, See You in Your Dreams. I'm like, love them and leave them. But yeah, for the most part, there's songs I skip on both those albums. Granted, I love Destroyer. I love God of Thunder. I love Detroit Rock City and Shout It Out
Loud. 2
Loud.
is definitely weaker.
But there's tracks on there that just, I just skip them. But, as big a Kiss fan as I am, they missed my cut. So, but wow.
That's my top 3. I mean, all 3 of my top 3, I can just put it on and listen to the whole thing. Don't skip a song.
I think that's how an album should be. If you skip over it, it's not that great.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be any fillers.
Yep.
That's why if you look at album length from the 70s and 80s to today, where back then an album had 9 songs and 38 minutes, 40 minutes long, it's because they didn't put filler tracks on like they do now.
Exactly.
18 tracks.
All killer, no filler.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was my thing was I went with that one too, was like going through this. I was like, there were a couple that I liked, but I was like, but it had like, I was like, if it had one track, I could put that. But if it had more, it's like, no, I can't.
Yeah. Yep. But fantastic choices from everybody. Just shows how good a year. And yeah, we had a lot of repeats, but hey, that's our list, man. What you can't go wrong with some of the classics that we've talked about here tonight. So with that said, guys, I just want to thank each and every one of you for doing this. We got to come up with episode 3 here sometime soon. We'll talk off air about that. So with that said, from my little music corner of the world, I want to give it to Roger Serreras. For Ben Carson, for Jason Carson, for JD Akins, I am John Clauser. We just talked about 1976. What were some of your favorites from 1976? Like, share, and subscribe. Talk about it in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you soon. Peace out, everybody.